The words stung like a slap across my face. Know your place. Emily. Mark's voice was low, deliberate. As he stood in our kitchen, his arms crossed, his eyes cold, I dared to suggest I might go back to school. And in that moment, my husband of 10 years reduced me to a footnote in his life. I stood frozen, the dish I'd been washing slipping from my hands into the soapy water. How had we come to this? Mark, the man who once cheered my ambitions, now saw me as a supporting character in his story as stay-at-home mom, whose dreams were a distraction from his career as a rising corporate lawyer. The weight of his words pressed against my chest. But beneath the hurt, a spark of defiance flickered. What does it mean to know my place? I wondered. And why did it feel like a cage? Our marriage hadn't always been this way. When we met in our 20s, Mark was charmed by my fire, my drive to become a writer. I'd published a few short stories, even won a small award. But after our daughter, Lily, was born, my dreams were sidelined. Mark's career took center stage, and I became the one managing carpools, playdates, and endless loads of laundry. I didn't mind at first. Lily was my world, but over time, Mark's subtle dismissals of my aspirations piled up like bricks, building a wall between us. That night, as I lay in bed, his words echoed in my mind. Know your place. They weren't just a rebuke. They were a challenge. What was my place? Was it here, in this quiet suburban life? Or was it somewhere bigger, older? I thought of Lily, her wide eyes watching me every day. What kind of example was I setting if I let someone, even her father, define my worth? By morning, the spark of defiance had grown into a flame. I wasn't going to let Mark's words bury me. I'd show him and myself what I was capable of. I started small. I enrolled in an online writing course, squeezing in assignments after Lily went to bed. Mark noticed, but said nothing, his silence louder than any criticism. I didn't tell him about the course, not because I was hiding it, but because I needed this for myself. Each lesson felt like reclaiming a piece of who I used to be. The instructor, a kind but tough woman named Clara, saw something in my work. You have a voice, she told me during a virtual workshop. Don't let it stay quiet. Months passed, and I wrote in secret, pouring my frustrations, hopes, and dreams into stories. One piece, a raw essay about the invisible labor of motherhood, caught Clara's attention. She urged me to submit it to a national writing contest. The deadline was tight, and self-doubt gnawed at me. What if I failed? What if Mark was right, and my place was smaller than I'd hoped? But then I thought of Lily again, her tiny hand in mine, and I hit submit. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I'd been chosen as a finalist. The contest organizers invited me to deliver a speech at their annual gala, where the winner would be announced. My heart raced as I read the email. A speech, in front of hundreds of people. I'd never done anything like that before. Mark would be there, I realized, his firm a sponsor of the event. The thought of standing on that stage, with his eyes on me, sent a shiver down my spine. This was my chance not just to prove him wrong, but to prove to myself that my place was wherever I chose to make it. I spent weeks crafting the speech, every word a brick in the foundation of my reclaimed self. I wrote about the quiet strength of women who are told to shrink, to stay in their lane, to know their place. I wrote about the power of refusing to be silenced. Each draft felt like shedding a layer of doubt, revealing the woman I'd forgotten I could be. Lily caught me practicing one night, her sleepy voice asking, "Mommy, why are you talking to yourself?" I laughed and pulled her into my lap. "I'm practicing for something big," I said. She didn't understand, but her smile gave me courage. The night of the gala arrived. I stood backstage, my heart pounding, the weight of the moment pressing against me. Mark was out there, in a tailored suit, mingling with colleagues, unaware of what was coming. I smoothed my dress, took a deep breath, and stepped toward the stage. This was it. My place wasn't in the shadows of his life. It was here, in the spotlight. with a story to tell. What does it mean to know your place? I asked myself as the curtain rose. And what happens when you rewrite the answer? The auditorium lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the crowd. I gripped the podium, my knuckles white, as hundreds of eyes turned toward me. This wasn't just a speech, it was a declaration. A line drawn in the sand between the woman I'd been and the one I was becoming. I scanned the audience, spotting Mark near the front. His face was unreadable, a mask of polite interest, but I knew him well enough to see the flicker of surprise in his eyes. He hadn't expected this. He hadn't expected me. I cleared my throat, my voice steady despite the storm of nerves inside me. Good evening, I began. Tonight, I want to talk about what it means to know your place and what it means to reject it. The words flowed, each one carrying the weight of years spent doubting myself. I spoke of the invisible labor of women, the expectations that bind us, the voices that tell us to stay small. I shared my story, not the specifics of Mark's words, but the universal truth of being told to shrink. The audience leaned in, their faces a mix of empathy and recognition. I felt their energy, their stories echoing mine, and it fueled me. As I spoke, I thought of the moments that had led me here. The late nights writing while Mark slept, oblivious to my quiet rebellion. The mornings when Lily's laughter reminded me why I couldn't give up. The fear that had gripped me when I submitted my essay, and the thrill when I learned I'd made it this far. Each step had been a choice to defy the cage Mark's words had tried to build around me. I paused, letting the silence settle. To know your place, I said, is to know your power. It's to stand where you are, unapologetically, and claim your voice. The room erupted in applause, and I felt a rush of exhilaration. Mark's face shifted, surprise giving way to something else. Was it discomfort? Pride? I couldn't tell. And in that moment, I didn't care. This wasn't about him anymore. After the speech, the gala buzzed with conversation. People approached me, their words warm and encouraging. Your essay moved me, a woman in her 50s said, her eyes bright with tears. I felt seen. A young man, barely out of college, told me my words gave him courage to pursue his own dreams. Each interaction was a reminder that my story wasn't just mine, it was theirs, too. Mark found me later, his expression guarded. That was impressive, he said, his voice tight. I waited for more, but he turned away, drawn into a conversation with a colleague. The dismissal stung, but it didn't surprise me. I'd crossed a line he hadn't expected, and he didn't know how to handle it. For the first time, I realized I didn't need his approval. The applause of strangers, the validation of my words, was enough. Back home, Lily was asleep, her small form curled under her blanket. I sat by her bed, watching her breathe, and felt a quiet resolve. The gala was just the beginning. The contest winner would be announced in a week. But win or lose, I'd already won something bigger, my sense of self. Mark's words had tried to define me, but I was rewriting the script. The next morning, I woke to an email from Clara. My essay had sparked a conversation online, with readers sharing their own stories of defying expectations. You started something, she wrote. Keep going. I smiled, my fingers itching to write more. But a question lingered. How would Mark react when he realized this wasn't a one-time moment, but a new chapter in my life? What happens when the person you love doesn't recognize the person you're becoming? I wondered, staring at the blank page before me. And how do you keep going when the ground beneath you shifts? The week after the gala was a blur of anticipation. The contest results loomed, but so did the growing distance between Mark and me. He hadn't mentioned my speech again, and his silence felt like a wall I couldn't climb. At home, he was polite but distant, his focus on work, his phone, anything but me. I wondered if he was embarrassed, or worse, if he resented my moment in the spotlight. I threw myself into writing, using the momentum from the gala to fuel new stories. Each word felt like a step toward a version of myself I'd buried years ago. Lily noticed the change. "You're happy, Mommy," she said one afternoon. Her crayons scattered across the kitchen table. Her words caught me off guard. Had I been so unhappy before? I hugged her tightly, determined to show her a mother who wasn't afraid to dream. The contest organizers called on a Friday. My essay had won. The prize wasn't just money, it was a publishing deal. A chance to turn my work into a book. I sat on the couch, the phone still in my hand, as the news sank in. A book. My voice. In print. For the world to read. I wanted to tell Mark. To share this victory. But something held me back. Would he see it as a threat? Or would he finally understand? I told Lily first. Her eyes widened. "You're going to be famous." She squealed. And I laughed, pulling her into a dance around the living room. But when Mark came home, I hesitated. Over dinner, I finally spoke. "I won the contest," I said, my voice steady. "They're offering me a book deal." His fork paused midair, his face unreadable. "That's big," he said finally. "Congratulations." The word was hollow, and the silence that followed was heavier than ever. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mark's reaction or lack of it gnawed at me. I'd expected pride, or at least curiosity, but instead, I got indifference. Was this what our marriage had become? Two people living parallel lives. One soaring, the other standing still. I thought of his words again, "Know your place." They felt like a chain I'd broken, but the freedom came with a cost. What did it mean for us if I kept pushing forward? The next day, I met with Clara for coffee. She was thrilled about the book deal and offered to mentor me through the process. "This is your moment, Emily," she said. "But it won't be easy. People, especially those closest to you, might not know how to handle it." Her words hit home. Mark's distance wasn't just about the speech. It was about what my success meant for him. For us. I started outlining the book, weaving together stories of women who defied expectations, including my own. Each chapter felt like a rebellion, a way to reclaim the narrative of my life. But at home, the tension grew. Mark's late nights at the office became more frequent. His conversations with me clipped. One evening, as I worked on a draft, he walked in and sighed. "You're always writing now," he said, a trace of accusation in his voice. "What about us?" The question stung. What about us? I wanted to ask. What about the years I'd put my dreams on hold for him? But instead, I said, "This is who I am, Mark. I'm not going back." His jaw tightened, and he walked away. The rift between us was widening, and I didn't know how to bridge it. As I prepared for the book deal meeting, I faced a choice. Could I keep chasing my dreams without losing my family? Or was the cost of my place in the world the life we'd built together? What does it take to hold on to yourself when the people you love want you to stay the same? I asked myself, staring at the pages of my manuscript. And what do you do when the answer might break everything? The meeting with the publisher was electric. Their office buzzed with creative energy. And as I sat across from the editor, Rachel, I felt like I belonged. She loved my essay and wanted the book to be a collection of stories about women reclaiming their power. "Your voice is raw, honest," she said. "It's going to resonate." I left the meeting with a contract in hand and a deadline, 6 months to deliver a manuscript. The weight of it thrilled me, but it also terrified me. Could I do this while holding my family together? At home, the air was thick with unspoken words. Mark hadn't asked about the meeting, and I didn't volunteer details. Lily, however, was my cheerleader. "Can I read your book, Mommy?" she asked, her eyes bright with pride. I promised her a special copy, just for her. Her faith in me was a lifeline. But Mark's silence was a storm cloud. I couldn't ignore it anymore. One night, after Lily was asleep, I confronted him. "We need to talk," I said, sitting across from him in the living room. He looked up from his laptop, his expression wary. What's going on? Mark, you've barely said a word about the contest. The speech. The book. He sighed, rubbing his temples. I'm happy for you, Emily. But this, it's a lot. I didn't sign up for this. His words cut deeper than I expected. What did you sign up for? I asked, my voice shaking. A wife who stays quiet, who doesn't chase her dreams. He flinched, but didn't answer. The silence stretched, and I realized he didn't know how to respond. He'd built a life where he was the star, and my rising was rewriting his script. The next day, I threw myself into the book. I interviewed women from all walks of life, a single mother who started her own business, a teacher who fought for her students, a grandmother who'd gone back to college in her 60s. Their stories fueled mine, reminding me why I was doing this. But each night, as I wrote, I felt Mark's absence more keenly. He wasn't just distant, was retreating. Lily sensed it too. Why's Daddy mad? She asked one morning, her small brow furrowed. I didn't know how to explain it. Instead, I took her to the park, letting her laughter drown out my worries. But the question lingered. Could I be the mother Lily needed? The writer I wanted to be? And the wife Mark expected? All at once? Or was I fighting a losing battle? Clara invited me to a writer's retreat, a weekend to focus on the book. I hesitated leaving Lily, and Mark felt risky, but I needed it. The retreat was a revelation. Surrounded by other writers, I felt seen, understood. I wrote furiously, pages pouring out of me. But when I called home, Mark's voice was curt. Lily's fine, he said. Do what you need to do. The words were permission, but they felt like a warning. When I returned, the house felt colder. Mark was polite, but the warmth we'd once shared was gone. I found a note on my desk. In his handwriting, I'm proud of you, but I don't know how to do this. My heart sank. Was he giving up? Or was he asking me to choose? What do you do when the person you love can't love the person you're becoming? I asked myself, staring at his note. And how do you move forward when the answer might mean letting go? The manuscript took shape, each chapter a testament to resilience. I wrote in stolen moments, early mornings, late nights, nap times. Lily became my shadow, scribbling in her own notebook while I typed. I'm writing a book too, she declared, her stories full of dragons and brave girls. Her pride in me was a light in the darkness of my crumbling marriage. Mark and I were strangers in our own home. We moved around each other like ghosts, polite but distant. I tried to bridge the gap, inviting him to read my drafts. But he declined. I'm not a writer, he said, as if that explained everything. His words echoed his earlier command, know your place. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I couldn't be. One evening, I found him in the kitchen, staring at a photo of us from our wedding day. Do you miss us? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He turned, his eyes tired. I miss when things were simple, he said. When you were, you. The words hit like a punch. He didn't want the new meth writer, the dreamer, the woman who refused to stay small. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him see me. But I didn't. I walked away, my manuscript calling me back. The book's deadline loomed, and I poured everything into it. The final chapter was about my own journey, a raw account of breaking free from expectations. Writing it felt like bearing my soul, but it was honest. Clara read it and called it powerful. Rachel, my editor, agreed. This will change lives, she said. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake the fear that my victory would cost me my family. Lily's school held a career day, and she begged me to speak. I hesitated. Mark would be there, and I wasn't sure I could face him in front of her classmates. But her pleading eyes won me over. I spoke about writing, about finding your voice, about never letting anyone define your place. The kids listened, wide-eyed, and Lily beamed. Mark sat in the back, his face unreadable. Afterward, A teacher pulled me aside. "You're inspiring," she said. "Not just for the kids, but for us." I glanced at Mark, hoping for a sign, but he left without a word. That night, I found a letter from him on the kitchen counter. "Emily, I'm sorry. I don't know how to be the man you need now. I need time." My heart broke, but a part of me wasn't surprised. He was pulling away, and I had to decide whether to fight for us or let him go. The book's release date was set, and the publisher planned a launch event. I was terrified and thrilled. This was my moment. But it came with a question: could I stand tall in my truth, even if it meant standing alone? What does it mean to choose yourself when it risks everything you've built? I asked myself, staring at Mark's letter. And how do you find the strength to keep going when the answer might shatter your heart? The book launch was a month away, and my life felt like a tightrope. I balanced writing, motherhood, and the unraveling of my marriage, each step threatening to send me falling. Lily was my anchor, her laughter a reminder of why I couldn't give up. But Mark's absence grew heavier. He'd moved to the guest room, his presence in the house a shadow. I tried to reach him, suggesting counseling, but he brushed it off. "I just need space," he said, his voice hollow. Space from what? I wanted to ask. From me. From the life we'd built. But I didn't push. I'd spent too long trying to fit into his idea of me. Now, I had to focus on the woman I was becoming. The book, titled Unbound, was finished. I held the advance copy in my hands. The cover a bold splash of color, my name in sharp print. It felt like a victory, but a bittersweet one. I wanted to share it with Mark, to show him what I'd built, but his distance made it clear he wasn't ready. Lily, though, was ecstatic. "It's so pretty, Mommy," she said, tracing the letters of my name. Her pride filled the hole Mark's silence left. The launch event was at a local bookstore, packed with readers, writers, and supporters. Clara and Rachel were there, their encouragement a lifeline. I read from Unbound, my voice steady as I shared stories of resilience. The crowd responded with applause, questions, and stories of their own. I felt alive, connected, like I'd found my place, not the one Mark had tried to define, but one I'd carved out myself. Mark didn't come. I'd invited him, hoping he'd see what this meant to me, but his absence was a quiet answer. Afterward, Clara pulled me aside. "You don't need his validation," she said. "You've got this." I nodded, but the ache remained. I wanted my husband back, but not at the cost of myself. Days later, I found a note from Lily, tucked into my manuscript. "You're my hero, Mommy." Tears blurred my vision. This was why I'd fought to show her that a woman's place is wherever she chooses to stand. But the victory felt incomplete without Mark by my side. I decided to try one last time. I wrote him a letter, pouring out my heart. I told him I loved him, but I couldn't shrink again. I needed a partner who saw me, all of me. I left it on his pillow, my heart pounding. Would he read it? Would it change anything? What do you do when love isn't enough to bridge the gap? I asked myself, staring at the empty space where Mark should have been. And how do you hold on to hope when the answer might be goodbye? The book launch was a success, with Unbound climbing the local bestseller list. Readers emailed me, sharing how my words had inspired them to chase their own dreams. I was living my purpose, but the joy was tempered by the emptiness at home. Mark hadn't responded to my letter. His silence was louder than ever, a confirmation that our paths had diverged. One evening, I sat Lily down. "Daddy and I are having a hard time," I said, choosing my words carefully. Her small face crumpled, but she nodded. "Will you still be my mommy?" she asked, her voice trembling. I pulled her close, promising I'd always be there. Her question broke my heart, but it also strengthened my resolve. I had to be whole for her, for myself. Mark finally spoke to me a week later. "I read your letter," he said, his voice heavy. "I'm proud of you, Emily." but I don't know how to be with this version of you. The words were honest, but they cut. He admitted he'd felt threatened by my success, by the way I'd outgrown the role he'd cast me in. I need to figure myself out, he said. Maybe we both do. We agreed to separate, a decision that felt like tearing out a piece of my heart. But it was also a release. I'd fought to know my place, and it wasn't in a marriage that required me to shrink. Lily would stay with me, and we'd navigate this new chapter together. Mark promised to be there for her, and I believed him. He wasn't a bad man, just one who couldn't grow with me. The months that followed were hard but hopeful. Unbound gained traction, earning reviews and invitations to speak. I took Lily to my talks when I could, letting her see her mother shine. She started writing her own stories, her imagination boundless. I found a new rhythm, one where I was enough. One day, as I signed books at an event, a woman approached me. Your book gave me the courage to leave a job that was killing me, she said. Thank you. Her words were a reminder of why I'd fought. My place wasn't just on a stage or in a book, it was in the lives I touched. The example I set for Lily. The truth I lived. Mark and I stayed civil, co-parenting with care. He started therapy, and I hoped he'd find his own path. As for me, I kept writing, kept speaking, kept growing. The woman who'd been told to know her place was gone. In her place stood someone new and bound, unafraid, and undeniably herself. What does it mean to find your place in a world that tries to define it for you? I asked myself, looking at Lily's latest story, her words full of courage. The answer was clear. You find it by choosing yourself. Every single day,